Welcome to the inaugural episode of The Christian Contrast, where we talk about topics that point us towards the idea that Jesus calls us to live differently than the world around us. And here with Garrett, and we're just going to have a brief episode where we talk about what this podcast is going to be like and what our hopes are for it. Yeah. So I gave a little bit of info in the introduction. We're talking about things that help bring up the contrast between how Jesus is calling us to live and the culture is. Why don't you talk about why you think that's valuable for us?
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about in the days leading up to this is how does this impact people in their daily life? And I think what I see, and we probably see a lot of times in culture, maybe in media, is that sometimes when we feel things are going differently than we want them, we get defensive and reactionary. But as Christians, there is ways that we're called to respond. And there's biblical truths of how we should view something in the Christian worldview. And I hope that we can talk about the ways that we can respond healthy to things that are different. Maybe we see something that we know isn't biblical. Instead of having afraid that we feel attacked, instead we respond with grace and love and the way that Jesus would want us to respond.
Yeah, and I think that's so core to the Christian life as a whole. And just even when we look at the life of Jesus, that he did this amazing thing where he was not standoffish from the world, and even not standoffish with people that were living lives that, it's fair to say he disapproved of a lot of things in their lives. And so he didn't, on the one hand, just sort of do the I'm okay, you're okay idea. And at the same time, he engaged with people instead of acting like their behavior was somehow a threat to him. Right.
Yeah, I think of the woman in the well. Yeah. Where he must have so many feelings and emotions and wanting justice to prevail. And he could have responded in a way that was of equal kind of anger than the crowd around him, but instead in such a well thought out, thoughtful, intelligent way that people had no choice but to kind of admit that they were in the wrong. It was really cool.
Yeah, and I think it is that whole thing of if we completely pull away from the world, we have nobody to tell the good news to. Yeah. And if we're completely like the world, we have nothing useful to say. Right. And so that's a lot of our hope in this. And even, I know for me, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I love podcasts. Yeah. And one of the things that's happened is there are certain podcasts that have just become a part of my routine. It's like, I think of it, actually, one of the podcasts I listen to is called Signposts. Okay. And so just to use that as an analogy, I think we live in a world that clearly is not treating Jesus as the king. And so I'm like, I need every signpost possible in my week to point me back to King Jesus. Right. So man, Sunday mornings, that's a signpost. That's a big one. When I'm meeting with my life group, when I'm reading my Bible, things like that, those are signposts. And a podcast like this can just be another way that in our weekly routine, we get our eyes redirected to Jesus. And so part of my hope is just that for people at Life Bible Fellowship Church, as well as all other people that decide that this is helpful to listen to, that this just becomes a part of the routine. If you're at the gym, if you're driving, if you're walking, if you're doing dishes, that this is something you can put on and just is a signpost to redirect us towards Jesus.
Yeah, I think there's even a level of commitment there. Because sometimes it's easy to consume, especially today, easy to consume entertainment. Even for me, it's a challenge. Like I'm in my car, I'm like, okay, I got my podcast on leadership, or I've got my murder mystery novel, But you make that decision that I want to take this opportunity, this time to grow a little bit, to be discipled. And I think even a show like this, in the same way that sometimes we, today we need to go to church, we need to worship because we've committed to, we want that deepening opportunity in our journey with God and with Christ. This podcast hopefully would be, they see it in the same way. It may not be the most entertaining podcast that's ever existed. I don't know if I have sound effects. Maybe we can get some sound effects. I don't know. But instead, it'll grow you and allow you to and cause you to think and be invited and challenged to really strengthen your relationship.
Yeah, and even with that, you use the word invited, and that's part of what we're hoping for the overall atmosphere of this. And again, for everyone, but in particular for members of Life Bible Fellowship Church, that this is a collaborative effort. It's like we're starting this, we have some ideas, we have things that we think are going to be really helpful, but we want through the Facebook page and through different interactions to invite the idea that we got people struggling with stuff, having questions, wondering about things. And we want it to be a really collaborative effort between us and others who will be kind of providing content, and between listeners and people that are saying, this is the content we're really craving for right now.
Right. Yeah, we would love to have a place, and we're hoping that the LBF Church Facebook group, where not only these episodes will drop, but we'll be asking questions about what types of things would they like to see us and hear us discuss and talk about. I mean, I would imagine that things could happen in the world around us, and all of us might be interested in what the biblical response to that thing would be. And we hope that people feel encouraged to suggest those things. And if we have a show, maybe we end on a question. Maybe it's even a little bit uncertain. We're like, I'm not sure. There could be a couple different ways that we could respond.
Yeah, like we didn't completely land. We're still a little bit unresolved.
And we'd love to hear people's thoughts on that as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about us doing this. I think that this can be something that's helpful. I'm excited about the engagement, like you just talked about, that this can be something that can be part of how we live out life as a church family. And I'm just excited to have this as an opportunity for us to be able to talk about things that maybe we don't necessarily get to on a Sunday morning, that can help shape our worldview and just point us back towards Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and thank everyone for listening. And don't forget to join the LBF Church Facebook group to dialogue more about this and engage. And hope you have a great week.